GST tax cut, by the way, was intended to act as a trigger for India to invest more, because it is a fact that, because of high rates of GST, relatively high rates of GST and a complicated structure, production of sales of, two-wheelers, which I would say is a basic item, had suffered, and it is it's actually below the levels that it was pre-pandemic.
Right.
So the GST reform itself is meant to be a big trigger for India to invest more in these commodities. So you have to break this up gradually. If you look at semiconductors, Anand, I think if you look at the historical role, the state, whether it's in South Korea or whether it is Donald Trump's US, which is trying to reindustrialize, the norm is to give big subsidies.
Yeah.
Right. The state does give big subsidies. I don't think we ought to shy away from that. Of course, it can't be unlimited. But the state, even the US, which is the world's richest country, if you listen to the rhetoric coming from the current administration, you'll think it is a very poor country, but it isn't. It is the world's richest country. That's what the statistics show. But if you look at, let's say, many of the states, US by states, I mean, Georgia, Arizona, they have these big plants, and they do give very extensive subsidies to the likes of BMW and other Japanese manufacturers. There are other incentives that these companies also go to the parts of the US where it's less easy to unionize compared to, some of the states where where the trade unions may be stronger. So these things are there. So the state is heavily, and if you look at a new, industry like semiconductors, see, another big initiative of the NDA government has to build what you can call a defense industrial complex, military industrial complex. And I'm using the term in a positive sense.
Correct.
And, and production of armaments production, India is emerging as an exporter. Armaments production, whether it's drones or, air defense systems and so on.
We've gone
the role of Indian private sector is improving, but there is extensive government intervention. That is bound to be the case.
True, government intervention, yes, but there has to be a certain level of government intervention has to be 30-40%. Private investment has to be 60-70%, and slowly that the sharks have to bite. Will they do that? We have to wait and watch. Is the government going to announce, or the Prime Minister going to hint at sweeping reforms, further reforms in trying to reduce the hurdles towards doing business, bring down to that ease of business, and do away with so many more archaic laws? They've already done away with nearly 2,000 such laws. We'll talk about all that. Rajat Sethi coming back to you yet again after the break. Viewers, stay with us. Less than 20 minutes to go before the Prime Minister begins his address. 15 minutes from now, that's when it is, sharp at 5 p.m. Stay with us.
Rajesh.
Bollywood actress Jacqueline Fernandez is set to appear tomorrow, seeking the quashing of the money laundering case which was filed against her. Now, Jacqueline has challenged Delhi High Court's July 3rd order, which rejected her earlier plea. Now, ED also alleges that she initially denied facts, which she later admitted them, and wiped data from her phone to hide evidence. This is the latest input we are tracking for you. CNN News 18's Ananya Bhatnagar joins us this morning. Ananya, very good morning to you. Let's start at the very beginning. Jacqueline Fernandez has filed a fresh plea in the Supreme Court. What is she seeking this time?
Well, she's seeking the similar relief that she was seeking before the Delhi High Court. In fact, this is in fact a challenge to that July 3 order of the Delhi High Court, wherein the High Court had refused to quash the FIR at the money laundering case against the Bollywood actor. In fact, going on to as far as to say that the questions that Jacqueline Fernandez was raising with regard to her trial being delayed, or in fact that she admittedly did not have the knowledge of Sukesh's whereabouts and how he had criminality attached to him, is something that is a test of the trial, can only be seen at the trial court stage. And it is too premature for Jacqueline Fernandez to seek a relief as far as the quashing is concerned.
Right, Ananya, what do you think are the chances of her plea being accepted, given the fact that Delhi High Court the High Court had made very serious observations earlier?
Well, absolutely. Presuming, in fact, in fact, how would the plea be made, and how would it be affected by the Supreme Court? How would how would the hearing be affected is something that we'll have to wait and watch for. It's on tomorrow when the matter is actually listed before a bench headed by Justice Deepankar Datta and in fact Justice Augustine George Massey. Whether there would be a notice issued on the petition or not is something that we'll have to wait and watch for.
Bollywood actress Jacqueline Fernandez is set to appear tomorrow, seeking the quashing of the money laundering case which was filed against her. Now, Jacqueline has challenged Delhi High Court's July 3rd order, which rejected her earlier plea. Now, ED also alleges that she initially denied facts, which she later admitted them and wiped data from her phone to hide evidence. This is the latest input we are tracking for you. CNN News 18's Ananya Bhatnagar joins us this morning. Ananya, very good morning to you. Let's start at the very beginning. Jacqueline Fernandez has filed a fresh plea in the Supreme Court. What is she seeking this time?
Well, she's seeking the similar relief that she was seeking before the Delhi High Court. In fact, this is in fact a challenge to that July 3 order of the Delhi High Court, wherein the High Court had refused to quash the FIR of the money laundering case against the Bollywood actor. In fact, going on to as far as to say that the questions that Jacqueline Fernandez is raising with regard to her trial being delayed, or in fact that she admittedly did not have the knowledge of Sukesh's whereabouts and how he had criminality attached to him, is something that is a test of the trial, can only be seen at the trial court stage, and it is too premature for Jacqueline Fernandez to seek a relief as far as the quashing is concerned.
Right, Ananya, what do you think are the chances of her plea being accepted, given the fact that Delhi High Court the High Court had made very serious observations earlier?
Well, absolutely. Presuming, in fact, in fact, how would the plea be made, and how would it be affected by the Supreme Court? How would the hearing be affected is something that we'll have to wait and watch for. It's on tomorrow when the matter is actually listed before a bench headed by Justice Deepankar Datta and in fact Justice Augustine George Massey. Whether there would be a notice issued on the petition or not is something that we'll have to wait and watch for.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Bollywood actress Jacqueline Fernandez is set to appear tomorrow, seeking
Back live, the biggest white swan moment. I keep saying that because one doesn't understand the impact of having a two-slab structure of GST, and within 7 years of it coming into implementation, for us to be able to get to this level is something which was not fathomed, and will this perhaps trigger that spark within not just the Bharatiya consumption but also Bharatiya industry to try and take this entire story to the next level, where we can not just eclipse Germany but leave it far behind and get closer up to China and US sooner than many nations think we can. And I think all collectively it's a collective ask. And is the Prime Minister going to pitch it that way? Is he going to come out and say that पांच उंगलियों से मुट्ठी बनती है, one finger gone and it's not a complete fist, and that's what he's going to expect from every aspect of Bharat when it comes to launching this Maha festival, this mega festival, starting the first day of Navratri, that is the 22nd of September. Oh, mind you, viewers, we also have a special conclave lined up to mark this landmark white swan moment called Reforms Reloaded, and it's here on Network 18 all through Monday, and it's a special coverage. But first up, in just a few minutes, we'll hear the Prime Minister. Let's go across to Rajat, who had a point to make when Modi was making a few points on, the big sectors, the defense sector, shipbuilding, etc. But there are also those sectors which actually pinch the pocket of the Aam Aadmi, like buying insurance, non-life insurance. There's no GST. Payal was making that point when we went to the break. This is important. Mera 18% GST tha kam ho gaya. Other aspects where GST is now come into that 5% slab, that which was there in 22% coming down to 18%, those which were in 18% coming down to 5%. So outside of the sin goods, Rajat, yes.
Well, I agree. I think whatever Prime Minister could do, he has done everything in terms of convincing the states that we need to roll out these tough reforms. States will be hit by certain revenue losses in the interim, but he has been able to convince everybody to come onto the same platform. But keep in mind that, as you said, पांचों उंगलियों से मुट्ठी बनती है. The GDP is C plus I plus G plus net exports. G is the government spending, and government has been doing everything to do the heavy lifting. And it's the investment and the R&D expenditure, which we were talking about, the private sector should have been doing. I can give you examples. There is a very big conglomerate, and I'll not take names, has a annual turnover of 1.66 lakh crore rupees. The amount of R&D spend that they do in 1 year is 44 crore rupees. One of the companies that you just mentioned on your show just now has a treasury with 40,000 crore rupees, and they just invest in mutual funds. Infosys actually did a share buyback because they found no other place to better spend those 18,000 crore rupees. They don't want to spend on R&D. They are not biting. The sharks are not biting in our country. They are. How many PhDs are getting hired in our country? Why are our big corporates not ready to do that hiring and trigger a positive virtuous cycle in our country? Why do we have to, the H1Bs, the higher trained, higher skilled individuals have to leave the country and go to Japan, to Europe, and to US? Because India Inc. does not hire. They are not ready to pay them to the levels that the world is ready to pay them. They are not seeing value in doing R&D. They are better off bringing in goods from outside and doing screwdriver technology and screwdriver level value addition overall. While the government did everything, they have done PLI. Government has done huge investments in even in the semiconductor industry. But now the private sector has to do something. Nirmala ji has shown her frustration with India Inc. not ready to expand capacities in our country. Prime Minister has repeatedly said, and I believe it has to be an all-citizen approach and an all-government approach if we have to unleash this white swan event to its fullest potential. Otherwise, it will just come in as a blip. There have been many blips in the past, and it will die down. All the enthusiasm will die down. We need to capitalize this moment. Absolutely, everybody who is not ready to walk the talk should be called out as well. And I think there is absolutely no time. The window is closing on us, and therefore we have to get into an action mode. Prime Minister is doing every single thing that he could do, potentially. But are all the citizens, all the stakeholders in India's growth story ready to walk the talk or not? That is the moot question, which is going to go past this address as well. And it will have a trickle-down effect over the next several days. And we'll keep observing and keep calling people out.
Bodhi, what is the reason why India Inc. is not biting? What is their grouse? What's the problem there? Or is it that they're happy milking it in here and investing elsewhere across the world?
No. So I think the points raised by Sethi are valid. I think Infi, for example, has been widely criticized for the share buyback. It shows that they don't really, they don't want to step up their game, as it were, and get into. Basically, they're doing the same work that they did some years back. That's true of a lot of Indian IT companies. And by the way, again, sometimes people respond to shock. So I think the shock of the H1B visa might, in fact, force some of those companies to innovate. We'll see. It's just 24 hours, and the issue might be sorted out. Maybe sorted out as part of a wider Indo-US, trade agreement and so on. But it is certainly a shock to the system. Why would they not invest? Well, one issue could be lack of demand, which could be true of some sectors, particularly automobiles and so on. That I think has been addressed. The GST reform, the GST tax cuts, and and don't forget the income tax reliefs in the budget. Where basically, if you're up to 12 lakhs, you don't have to pay income tax. You have to file a return, but you don't need to pay income tax. Those are intended to stoke demand. I think that is so hopefully, if demand picks up, I think India will invest. But I agree, there is I don't think Modi ji will talk about capex in his speech. But as has been mentioned, I think the finance minister has mentioned this on umpteen occasions that she said that we've done whatever we can in terms of the big picture reforms, big policy reforms that we are investing. So we've done all that we could, and it's up to India Inc. to walk the talk. It is a fact that there is a certain lack of risk-taking capacity on the part of India Inc. Not all of India Inc. There are big investments that are happening. By the way, it's not true. There are investments that have happened in the renewable space. There's been a lot of investment. If you look at the PLI space, the smartphones have been a big success. Electronics have been a big success. Pharma to some extent. But yes, you could argue there are 16 sectors which have PLI support, and the success are only other PLI schemes have been so successful. This is not that investment is not happening. Some of the big conglomerates are investing, but others
No,
aren't.
I'm
I
just,
think
I'm just saying.
primarily because they are waiting.
Yeah, it just comes to mind. We got to take a break, just about 2.5 minutes, and so that we can have the final 2 minutes to converse and interact before the Prime Minister's address is due. Quickly taking just a 60-second break, and then we come back.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Bollywood actress Jacqueline Fernandez is set to appear tomorrow, seeking the quashing of the money laundering case which was filed against her. Now, Jacqueline has challenged Delhi High Court's July 3rd order, which rejected her earlier plea. Now, ED also alleges that she initially denied facts, which she later admitted them, and wiped data from her phone to hide evidence. This is the latest input we are tracking for you. CNN News 18's Ananya Bhatnagar joins us this morning. Ananya, very good morning to you. Let's start at the very beginning. Jacqueline Fernandez has filed a fresh plea in the Supreme Court. What is she seeking this time?
Well, she's seeking the similar relief that she was seeking before the Delhi High Court. In fact, this is in fact a challenge to that July 3 order of the Delhi High Court, wherein the High Court had refused to quash the FIR of the money laundering case against the Bollywood actor. In fact, going on to as far as to say that the questions that Jacqueline Fernandez is raising with regards to
Back live, and Mr. Rajagopalan had a point to make when we said that India Inc. has not invested in some of the big sectors. Rajagopalan ji, agri-foods, if there is so much potential. I just visited the UAE, and the demand from Africa nations for eggs, for meat, for dairy is so huge. Why is it that the private sector is not big in these sectors? Why is it that there are no huge cooperatives which are not state-backed? Which are not getting into this sector? Why is it that there's no big corporate that's set up something with respect to food processing? These are all fair questions to ask, Aman.
Well, absolutely, and I think that is something that the Prime Minister also, has been speaking earlier as well, that we have to increase our involvement in this regard. But I think just a few seconds away from the Prime Minister's address now, and I think the big GST gift to the nation, what the Prime Minister spells out the contours of the same would be very, very interesting a day ahead of the Navratri festival. A big reform, as Amit Shah and Prime Minister have been saying, perhaps the biggest reform since independence. The GST cuts have been described as that. Just two slabs left now,
right.
The 5% and the 18%, and we just counted down seconds to the Prime Minister starting to speak on the same. Hopefully that will be the main crux of the address, Anand. And
right. Let's just also get Rashid Kitwai. Would you want to see, will that be perhaps the biggest test of the Prime Minister's push and also the government's push? PM is speaking.
नमस्कार. कल से शक्ति की उपासना का पर्व नवरात्रि का आरंभ हो रहा है. आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं. नवरात्रि के पहले दिन से देश आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के लिए एक और महत्वपूर्ण और बड़ा कदम उठा रहा है. कल यानी नवरात्रि के प्रथम दिवस 22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे. एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है. इस जीएसटी बचत उत्सव में आपकी बचत बढ़ेगी और आप अपनी पसंद की चीजों को और ज्यादा आसानी से खरीद पाएंगे. हमारे देश के गरीब, मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा। यानी त्योहारों के इस मौसम में सबका मुंह मीठा होगा। देश के हर परिवार की खुशियां बढ़ेगी। मैं देश के कोटि कोटि परिवारजनों को नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स की और इस बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे। साथियों, जब साल 2017 में भारत ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म की तरफ कदम बढ़ाया था, तो एक पुराना इतिहास बदलने की और एक नया इतिहास रचने की शुरुआत हुई थी। दशकों तक हमारे देश की जनता, आप सभी लोग, देश के व्यापारी अलग अलग टैक्स के जाल में उलझे हुए थे। ऑक्ट्रॉय, एंट्री टैक्स, सेल टैक्स, एक्साइज, वेट, सर्विस टैक्स, न जाने भांति भांति के दर्जनों टैक्स हमारे देश में थे। एक शहर से दूसरे शहर माल भेजना हो तो न जाने कितने चेक पोस्ट पार करने होते थे, कितने ही फॉर्म भरने पड़ते थे, कितनी सारी रुकावटें थी। हर जगह टैक्स के अलग अलग नियम थे। मुझे याद है जब 2014 में देश ने मुझे प्रधानमंत्री पद का दायित्व सौंपा था, तब उसी शुरुआत के दौर में एक विदेशी अखबार में एक दिलचस्प उदाहरण छपा था। उसमें एक कंपनी की मुश्किलों का जिक्र था। उस कंपनी ने कहा था कि अगर उसे बेंगलुरु से 570 किलोमीटर दूर हैदराबाद अपना सामान भेजना हो तो वो इतना कठिन था कि उन्होंने सोचा और उन्होंने कहा कि वो पसंद करती थी कंपनी कि पहले अपना सामान बेंगलुरु से यूरोप भेजे और फिर वही सामान यूरोप से हैदराबाद भेजे। साथियों, टैक्स और टोल के जंजाल की वजह से ये तब के हालात थे। और मैं आपको सिर्फ एक पुराना उदाहरण याद दिला रहा हूं। तब ऐसी लाखों कंपनियों को, लाखों करोड़ों देशवासियों को अलग अलग तरह के टैक्स के जाल की वजह से हर रोज परेशानी होती थी। सामान को एक शहर से दूसरे शहर पहुंचने के बीच जो खर्च बढ़ता था, वो भी गरीब को उठाना पड़ता था। आप जैसे ग्राहकों से वसूला जाता था। साथियों, देश को इस स्थिति से निकालना बहुत जरूरी था। इसलिए जब आपने हमें 2014 में अवसर दिया तो हमने जनहित में, देश हित में जीएसटी को अपनी प्राथमिकता बनाया। हमने हर स्टेक होल्डर से चर्चा की, हमने हर राज्यों की हर शंका का निवारण किया, हर सवाल का समाधान खोजा, सभी राज्यों को, सबको साथ लेकर आजाद भारत का इतना बड़ा टैक्स रिफॉर्म संभव हो पाया। ये केंद्र और राज्यों के प्रयासों का नतीजा था कि देश दर्जनों टैक्सों के जाल से मुक्त हुआ और पूरे देश के लिए एक जैसी व्यवस्था बनी। वन नेशन वन टैक्स का सपना साकार हुआ। साथियों, रिफॉर्म एक अनवरत चलने वाली प्रक्रिया होती है। जब समय बदलता है, देश की जरूरत बदलती है, तो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन रिफॉर्म भी उतने ही आवश्यक होते हैं। इसलिए देश की वर्तमान जरूरतों और भविष्य के सपनों को देखते हुए जीएसटी के ये नए रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो रहे हैं। नए स्वरूप में मुख्य रूप से अब सिर्फ 5% और 18% के ही टैक्स स्लैब रहेंगे। इसका मतलब है रोजमर्रा के इस्तेमाल की ज्यादातर चीजें और सस्ती हो जाएगी। खाने पीने का सामान, दवाइयां, साबुन, ब्रश, पेस्ट, स्वास्थ्य और जीवन बीमा, ऐसे अनेकों सामान, अनेकों सेवाएं या तो टैक्स फ्री होगी या फिर केवल 5% टैक्स देना होगा। जिन सामानों पर पहले 12% टैक्स लगा करता था, उसमें से 99% यानी करीब करीब 100 के निकट 99% चीजें अब 5% टैक्स के दायरे में आ गई है। साथियों, पिछले 11 साल में देश में 25 करोड़ लोगों ने गरीबी को हराया है, गरीबी को परास्त किया है और गरीबी से बाहर निकल करके 25 करोड़ का एक बहुत बड़ा समूह नियो मिडिल क्लास के रूप में आज देश के अंदर बहुत बड़ी भूमिका अदा कर रहा है। इस नियो मिडिल क्लास की अपनी एस्पिरेशंस हैं, अपने सपने हैं। इस साल सरकार ने 12 लाख रुपए तक की इनकम को टैक्स फ्री करके एक उपहार दिया और स्वाभाविक है, जब 12 लाख रुपयों का इनकम टैक्स में राहत हो जाए तो मध्यम वर्ग के जीवन में तो कितना बड़ा बदलाव आता है, कितनी सरलता सुविधा हो जाती है। और अब गरीबों की भी बारी है, नियो मिडिल क्लास की बारी है। अब गरीब को, नियो मिडिल क्लास को एक तरह से डबल बोनांजा मिल रहा है। जीएसटी कम होने से अब देश के नागरिकों के लिए अपने सपने पूरे करना और आसान होगा। घर बनाना, टीवी, फ्रिज खरीदने की बात हो, स्कूटर, बाइक, कार खरीदना हो, ये सब पर अब कम खर्च करना होगा। आपके लिए घूमना फिरना भी सस्ता हो जाएगा, क्योंकि ज्यादातर होटल्स के कमरों पर भी जीएसटी कम कर दिया गया है। वैसे साथियों, मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि दुकानदार भाई बहन भी जीएसटी रिफॉर्म को लेकर बहुत उत्साह में है। वो बहुत जीएसटी में हुई कटौती को ग्राहकों तक पहुंचाने में जुटे हुए हैं। बहुत सारी जगहों पर पहले और अब के बोर्ड लगाए जा रहे हैं। साथियों, हम नागरिक देवो भवः, नागरिक देवो भवः के जिस मंत्र के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म में इसकी साफ झलक दिखाई देती है। अगर हम इनकम टैक्स में छूट और जीएसटी में छूट को जोड़ दें तो एक साल में जो निर्णय हुए हैं उससे देश के लोगों को 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा की बचत होगी। और तभी तो मैं कह रहा हूं ये बचत उत्सव है। साथियों, विकसित भारत के लक्ष्य तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें आत्मनिर्भरता के रास्ते पर चलना ही होगा और भारत को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व हमारे एमएसएमईज यानी हमारे लघु, मध्यम और कुटीर उद्योगों पर भी है, जो देश के लोगों की जरूरत का है, जो हम देश में ही बना सकते हैं, वो हमें देश में ही बनाना चाहिए। साथियों, जीएसटी की दरें कम होने से नियम और प्रक्रियाएं और आसान बनने से हमारे एमएसएमईज, हमारे लघु उद्योगों को, कुटीर उद्योगों को बहुत फायदा होगा। उनकी बिक्री बढ़ेगी और टैक्स भी कम देना पड़ेगा, यानी उनको भी डबल फायदा होगा। इसलिए आज मेरी एमएसएमई से लघु उद्योग हो, सूक्ष्म उद्योग हो, कुटीर उद्योग हो, आप सबसे बहुत अपेक्षाएं हैं। आपको भी पता है, जब भारत समृद्धि के शिखर पर था, तब भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था का मुख्य आधार हमारे एमएसएमईज थे, हमारे लघु और कुटीर उद्योग थे। भारत की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, भारत में बने सामानों की क्वालिटी बेहतर होती थी। हमें उस गौरव को वापस पाना है। हमारे लघु उद्योग जो बनाए वो दुनिया में हर कसौटी पर बेस्ट हो, उत्तम से उत्तम हो। हम जो मैन्युफैक्चर करें वो दुनिया में आन बान शान के साथ बेस्ट के सारे पैरामीटर को पार करने वाला हो। हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स की क्वालिटी दुनिया में भारत की पहचान बढ़ाए, भारत का गौरव बढ़ाए। हमें इस लक्ष्य को लेकर काम करना है। साथियों, देश की स्वतंत्रता को जैसे स्वदेशी के मंत्र से ताकत मिली, वैसे ही देश की समृद्धि को भी स्वदेशी के मंत्र से ही शक्ति मिलेगी। आज जाने अनजाने हमारी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में बहुत सी विदेशी चीजें जुड़ गई है, हमें पता तक नहीं है। हमारे जेब में कंघी विदेशी है कि देसी, हमें पता ही नहीं है। हमें इनसे भी मुक्ति पानी होगी। हम वो सामान खरीदें जो मेड इन इंडिया हो, जिसमें हमारे देश के नौजवानों की मेहनत लगी हो, हमारे देश के बेटे बेटियों का पसीना हो। हमें हर घर को स्वदेशी का प्रतीक बनाना है, हर दुकान को स्वदेशी से सजाना है। गर्व से कहो ये स्वदेशी है, गर्व से कहो मैं स्वदेशी खरीदता हूं, मैं स्वदेशी सामान की बिक्री भी करता हूं। ये हर भारतीय का मिजाज बनना चाहिए। जब ये होगा तो भारत तेजी से विकसित होगा। मेरा आज सभी राज्य सरकारों से भी आग्रह है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के इस अभियान के साथ, स्वदेशी के इस अभियान के साथ अपने राज्यों में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को गति दे, पूरी ऊर्जा से, पूरे उत्साह से जुड़े, निवेश के लिए माहौल बढ़ाएं। जब केंद्र और राज्य मिलकर आगे बढ़ेंगे तो आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना पूरा होगा। भारत का हर राज्य विकसित होगा, भारत विकसित होगा। इसी भावना के साथ मैं फिर एक बार इस बचत उत्सव की अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देते हुए अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूं। एक बार फिर आप सबको नवरात्रि की, जीएसटी बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Nagrik Devo Bhava is the thought process, focusing on the middle class and the poor, underlining the fact that up to 12 lakhs income tax has been waived off, and that puts more money on the people, the common man on ground, to go ahead and consume. Aman Sharma with me, Payal Mehta with me, on the lines like what Modi had said, that they would underline the impact of the middle class, but there was also a message there for the MSMEs. Aman.
Well, that's exactly what we were speaking about earlier. The Prime Minister clearly, I think, 3-4 major points, Anand. Number one, he's calling it a GST Bachat Utsav. So clearly he's saying this is a festival, this is a major, major reform. Please go out and spend. This is a major, it should be celebrated in a festive manner. That is what the Prime Minister is saying. Number two, I think what he's saying is that we have given you a double bonanza. So the first bonanza was the IT cut, income tax cut, which came in February. We put more money in your pocket. And number two is now coming the GST cut. The Prime Minister putting that figure, I think it's a huge figure, that this year the country's citizens will save rupees 2.5 lakh crore rupees due to both these measures. I think it's a major, major figure which the Prime Minister has given. Also touching upon, I think, the Swadeshi, which we were speaking about earlier. That's Garv se kaho hum Swadeshi hain, Atmanirbharta. He's saying Swadeshi and Atmanirbharta together will lead to India becoming a developed country by 2047. That is a major target. But I think the larger scope of the message, larger message from the PM also mentioning the middle class, as we were discussing earlier, that this is a big gift for India's middle class, which for years has been saying we haven't got anything from the Modi government. Now Mr. Modi is saying, look, I gave you first the income tax cut in February. Now I've given you a GST cut. Together you will be saving rupees 2.5 lakh crore. That is the money I've put in your pocket. Now spend that money. Spend it on Swadeshi goods, spend it on goods made in India. That will take the country forward. I think GST, Bachat Utsav and Nagrik Devo Bhava, that the citizen is supreme for us, and we have done everything for the citizen, be it the middle class, be it the poor, and we are putting more money in your pocket. Please go out and spend it and enjoy the benefits of this GST cut.
Is it also perhaps for the first time in more than a decade, Payal, that the Prime Minister is directly addressing the middle class and saying, till now you kept cribbing, what have you done for me? What have you done for me? I'm the one paying taxes. You're taxing me more. You're not putting money in my hand. You're giving everybody else rebates. What about me? And perhaps this is the first time the Prime Minister has said directly to the middle class that this is for you. Thank you for sticking with me for 12 years, but this is what I'm putting in your hands. More money to spend.
Prime Minister has given the opportunity for public to have more money in their hands and at the same time, use it effectively. He said for the last 1 year, ever since his government came back to power for the third time in a row, they have been the focus. They've been at the center of his focus. And there are more reforms that are going to come. The Prime Minister has not only spoken to the middle class, but even the MSME, the small manufacturers, all of them saying that there were many taxes that were there. Was a lot of complicated system which was in place.
Yeah.
We're trying to simplify it. Anand, you know that the Jan Vishwas 2.0 bill is also in the making. It's going to be going for parliament scrutiny. That's something which is going to be focused on. But at the same time, when the Prime Minister speaks about make local and make local go vocal for local, but he's also saying make local for global now. Do not compromise on the quality. Do not compromise on the kind of quality of goods that we need to really produce. And we have the ability in us not only to become self-reliant, but also to become the sourcing hub as far as the entire world is concerned. So quite an emphatic statement coming in from the Prime Minister saying that tomorrow is Navratra. We will begin worshipping Lord Durga. Many people across the entire country worship it like a festival, and this is a festival for you to in fact have savings and be able to use it in the market.
Also, I think one point, Payal, which also mentioned he just not mentioned the middle class, it's the neo middle class.
Yeah.
The 25 crore people which India under Mr. Modi has been able to lift out of poverty. These people also have aspirations. They become the new middle class. Yes, we are giving them free ration because we don't want them to slip behind again into poverty. But this new middle class also has a lot of aspirations. They want to buy two-wheelers. They may want to buy a small car.
They want to get themselves a home, and now cement and everything also.
Yes, everything is
But Anand, if you ask me individually, many people in our families will tell us save this because when you have a bad day at health, you'll be able to use it. The zero GST for the health benefits, for the health insurance, for the life insurance, for me, that's a major takeaway and probably the most underestimated thing that we're speaking about.
Correct. In fact, outside of life insurance, I think everywhere else, for everything which is non-life, in terms of accident, in terms of health, in terms of vehicle insurance, the GST rates coming down is a big fillip. Tushar is also with us. Namaste, Tushar. Rajat stays on. So your thoughts after listening to the Prime Minister's 17-minute speech. Yes, Tushar.
Anand, the Prime Minister is simply asking the nation, go out and shop. The shopping season begins tomorrow. The Navratras are here. Just go out and shop till your heart's content. It's that simple. The story of these GST reforms is about the lower income groups. And, there have been a lot of families. We all have been there at some point when we wanted to buy our first car or first two-wheeler. And always that affordability used to be a very major, factor as to how if we can go forward and buy a car or not. And now look at the smaller and the mid-sized cars. How much the affordability has improved. The compensation cess on cars is gone. The smaller cars below 1200 cc are down to 18%. That will enable a lot of families in the second, third tier towns and cities to actually purchase their first cars. You look at the FMCG products, a lot of companies, domestic companies, local MSMEs, they are big on gifting in Diwali season and they all will reap the benefits of the tax cuts. The consumers are going to buy out more, shop more. So I think this is the most important quarter of the year when it comes to the GDP numbers, and the government has done enough to create a demand boost. And I think this is the first government in the history of our republic to have two major demand boosts created in one financial year. You're talking about the income tax cut and you're talking about the GST rejig.
Rajat?
No, absolutely. I think we were largely discussing the same set of issues that even the Prime Minister brought forward. I believe it is truly unprecedented. The kind of booster dose that India's economy was needing for a long time was a consumption boost. Ideally what government has done is government has said that, see, don't put money in the bureaucrat's hand, put it directly into the consumer's hand. Governments, no matter how good the intention is, are not the best allocator of capital. If you put money into the hands of consumers, the kind of multiplier that it can create on a GDP is absolutely profound, far better than anything else. And I believe this is something where the attention of a lot of economists had been going on for past several years. And I believe this year is that year where two shots of bazooka have been fired. And I believe this is going to have some long-term impacts on our economy. It will be more structural, more fundamental than what we can imagine sitting at the very outset. It is going to fundamentally change certain consumption habits because these are such structural changes. You'll see more consumption and not less. Therefore, all the hole in the revenues that has been created for the states in the interim will be filled rather quickly. And we'll see in the following months and quarters, the coming ones, as to how well has India's consumption cycle upticked. And those signals a lot of economists will also be looking at.
But if the middle class consumes more, are the manufacturers going to manufacture more? How are we looking at the message to the MSMEs? The Swadeshi push, that is also significant, Tushar.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people have been questioning if the companies will pass on to benefits to the consumers, and the companies have already come out with the revised rate list before the public, before even the rates kick in. What the companies might lose on value on a single unit, they'll make up by the sale of volume on multiple units. So I don't think they're worried about the revenue shortfall at all. What we are going to witness in the upcoming quarter is going to be a thrust that has been so unprecedented, so unparalleled in its entire nature, that families are already being nudged to go out and shop. It's very simple. The simplicity of the message is that for the last 11 years, the government was doing everything for the MSMEs. They were creating all the infrastructure they needed. The Prime Minister also spoke about a story from the Financial Times in 2014, where how goods moving between two cities was very, very difficult. So the government has done all it could in the last 11 years to create all this, to fulfill all the supply gaps. Now it's up to the consumption part, the demand part, and they've also addressed that. And thankfully, the companies are also passing on that benefit to the consumers. The automobile companies, the FMCG companies, the LCDs, the electronics, everyone. They are very upbeat about the entire mood right now. And starting tomorrow, we'll see a further resurgence in the economy, the results of which would be visible in the final financial quarter of this financial year.
Well, one.
Well, I think also a very important point that the Prime Minister made there, about that the UPA was not able to bring the GST. They have been criticizing now the government that you brought a GST, then you brought these cuts. The Prime Minister making it very clear and narrating that example to show that how earlier VAT, octroi, these various taxes were really a pain upon the Indian business journey as well, and Amit Shah Home Minister Amit Shah told our editor-in-chief Rahul Joshi a couple of days back when he was saying that, they could not convince the states that the states will get adequate revenue. It is not your idea. You could not implement it. We are the ones, when we came in 2017, we could convince the state governments that GST is a good thing. It will increase your revenues. Even now, Anand, when the GST Council met, some people, some in the opposition had these doubts that, our income will go down because if you bring such a massive GST cut, how will we recoup the incomes that we are losing? I think the government has been able to convince many states on that regard also, that you will see from September 22nd, when people actually go out and spending money, you will see that the increased spending will make up for what you're terming as a revenue loss. In fact, at the end of it, this is smart economics. We will end up earning much more. The figure that I'll come back to the figure again, rupees 2.5 lakh crore, the Prime Minister saying has been put in the pocket of the people through the GST cut and the income tax cut. It's a double bonanza. People will go out and spend, and we should all. That is why I think the government is, pushing it so much that it's a festival.
Correct.
That's exactly what the Prime Minister is saying. Even now, he made an appeal to the states that join in this movement. There's benefit for everybody, and the Prime Minister explaining it with a simplicity that he really does. That have you ever pondered that the comb that you have in your pocket, whether that's made in India or not, that actually makes a lot of sense. Anand, it's not about what you're communicating; it's about how you're communicating with who your audience is. And the Prime Minister is the same person who was able to, in fact, convince the entire country that yes, we have to go into a lockdown. What we are able to do, and people, really listen to what he said.
Correct. I think when the PM speaks, I think all of Bharat listens. That's what's important. But PK Vasuji is also with us. What do you suggest, or what do you make of the Prime Minister's address? His focus on the middle class, focus on the poor, saying that this festival, go out and celebrate, enjoy this money in your pockets. Is that also a message to the states? Don't worry, you're going to make revenues.
Like he said, is baar sabka muh meetha hoga.
Muh meetha hoga.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is very well timed. It's the beginning of Navratri. For Bengalis, it's Mahalaya today. And it's a time to celebrate with a substantial reduction in GST. We've also got the big income tax cut. And of course, we face external headwinds. I think given the external headwinds we face, I also noted the Prime Minister's focus on Atmanirbharta and buying Swadeshi. So when there's a choice between an Indian car and a foreign-made car, you can choose an Indian one. When there's a choice between a foreign-made toothpaste and an Indian one, you can choose Indian ones, because the interesting thing is that there are alternatives which are competitive and which are made in India. So I think all the more in the face of this a triple whammy of threats from the US in particular, potentially our great friend, but one that has turned in a strange direction with this massive tax on foreign workers in the US, $100,000 tax on each foreign worker, plus the 50% tariff rate on a lot of our exports. I think the message of Atmanirbharta and of buying Swadeshi is particularly relevant. And I would say we should really be focused on boycotting the products of countries that are making life difficult for us. The United States, China, etc. I mean, a lot of the products in the market are from those two countries. They can easily be substituted with Indian products. So I think that's the other message. Go out and spend, given that there's more money in your pocket with the reduction in income tax rates. I think most of us would be seeing refunds coming through as a result of the lower tax rates, plus GST. There's an effective weighted average cut of more than 2 percentage points in GST rates. For many products, the cut is substantially larger. So there is an opportunity to substantially benefit in the form of consumption, and with a big reduction in prices. Now, I think what is interesting also from a macro standpoint is that inflation is just over 2% in the latest month in August. There is a 2 percentage point reduction in all goods and services prices. So by October, inflation should be very close to zero, which basically means that there'll be an even greater opportunity for the RBI to cut interest rates. So we'll get a triple benefit. We'll get further reductions. We already had a 100 basis point cut in the repo rate so far this year. We have a 100 basis point cut in CRR coming through, with 25 basis points each month: September, October, November, December. But in addition, we are likely to see a rate cut. So interest rate cuts, income tax cut, GST cut. There's a festival of benefits for the Indian consumer and Indian businesses coming through.
Right. Now, how much will the Indian businesses add, Basu, that we've got to see? Let's go across to Gaurav Vallabh. He's member of the PMEAC. He's with us. Gaurav ji, namaste. प्रधानमंत्री ने 2-3 चीजों पे जोर दिया है. एक, उन्होंने कहा बचत उत्सव. दूसरा, उन्होंने कहा नागरिक देवो भव. तीसरा, उन्होंने कहा मिडिल क्लास और पुअर के लिए ये फेस्टिवल है. पहली बार शायद मिडिल क्लास को उन्होंने संबोधित किया. He's addressed the middle class, but he's also focused on the MSMEs. There is a message to the manufacturers to make more in India, as much as there is a message to the consumer to buy more of what is made in Bharat.
See, Anandji, it's not the first time. You can see it's a process. In the union budget, the income up to 12 lakh is exempted from the income tax. Then comes the GST 2.0 or GST reform, which is a constant and continuous process. So you can see together itself, Prime Minister had also mentioned this number, that if we combine the income tax exemption up to 12 lakh rupees of income and drastic rate reduction of almost all essential products, and he gave a number of 99% of 12% items were either in 5% or 0%. So this together is going to have a saving of 2.5 lakh crore for the consumers. This is the point number one. And as per the State Bank of India's research, the 12 lakh income exemption plus GST reform is going to have an additional demand in the economy to the extent of 5.31 lakh crore rupees. So I can tell you that together with these 5.31 lakh crore rupees of additional demand, which is predicted by State Bank of India's research, and with local for local mantra, which Prime Minister gave us number of times, and now all of us are very serious, including a common citizen of our country is very serious that which product he is buying, where he's manufacturing this product. I am seeing, I went to yesterday to some shopkeepers, they are saying here, they are displaying on their board, that we sell only those products which are manufactured in India. So he is giving push to Make in India scheme. He is giving push to MSME, and he is going to giving a push to the economy, because ours is a consumption-based economy. So if our consumption is going to move ahead, the entire economy is going to rotate. That is the mantra which Prime Minister had shared just a couple of minutes back.
But is this going to open up the purses of the India income, even as the middle class is urged to open up their purses to consume more? Is India Inc. going to now start biting? Are they going to come out and aggressively push this manufacturing in Bharat? Rather than just doing, assembly in Bharat and nut bolt tightening, there is a lot of core building, core manufacturing that is required, and the government seems to be a little frustrated that India Incorporated is not coming to the fore. So what's your thought there?
You are correct. You are correct. And this question which you had asked is very important and relevant in the current context. See, when we are talking about 140 crore consumption, 140 crore people's consumption in our economy, you can't just have your assembly plants. You require from technology to the product. It should not be that somebody is taking 70% of share, operating from some foreign location, and just we are assembling. That's not going to happen. From technology to product. So that is what we are trying to achieve. And with these numbers, nobody can ignore to have a complete technology here. No company in the world can afford to leave 20% of world's population. That is the biggest strength of our country right now. So nobody can leave 20% of global population. If we are saying that there should be a technology transfer, he is compelled to transfer the technology. So from technology to product, the entire value chain is going to be created. And this 5.5 lakh crore rupees, I can say it is more a pessimistic idea. The way the automobile sector, Anandji, I am giving one example. The way automobile sector is facing that in next 9 days during Navratra, they almost every automobile company, whether it's a car manufacturing or two-wheeler manufacturing, not only they are passing the GST benefits, they are giving additional concessions. So what India is trying to achieve now, it's a 100% consumption. Now, earlier we used to say ours is 80% consumption driven, 80% of GDP comes from the consumption, 20% comes from the export. Now we are moving towards a holistic economy, Atmanirbhar economy, and everybody is feeling pride that if I am, for example, buying this pen, I should be proud that I am holding a pen which is manufactured in India.
Correct, but the fact is that this part, he said कि कंघी भी आपका कहाँ बना है आपको पता नहीं है. So this whole thok mein importing from China is what he's alluding to. But point is, sir, that in our country we don't have the technology or the metallurgy to make nail cutters. We used to earlier import from Korea, abhi China se import ho raha hai. So that when is the MSME going to get involved in that R&D and setting up those processes here, so that these things are made here?
See, Anandji, saying that we don't have technology is partially wrong. We were having technology, but the scale of operations, the economies of scale at which those countries are operating, they were able to give at a price which is less than the price of the domestic product. So naturally, people started using that. But now, when bulk consumption or bulk consumer, like 140 crore of us, is going to ask that I want a nail cutter make in India, like just taking your example, then naturally the MSME sector, which is make in India, is going to improve on quality, is going to give the best prices to the consumer, and with the drastic reduction in the taxes, especially the GST, ultimately it's a win-win situation for the manufacturer as well as the consumer.
Now, here is the thing, sir. Now, there is bachat, there is a huge price down, but there is also a certain level of GST chori. Now, how does the government try to mitigate this? Because, to pass on benefit of GST revenues to the states, the GST billing has to happen. The GST input credit or the tax has to be paid. Now, if there is a huge amount of cash doing the rounds in this festival season, how is the government going to counter that?
See, one thing, the GST itself have an intelligence of its own, number one. That is point number one. Point number two, government had made a group of few people who are going to find out whether the prices are the reduction in GST rates are reflected in prices or not. And I can tell you, based on my discussion with the business people, 99% of business people are okay to pass on the prices, provided that this demand they should get. So it's a competitive market. If you are not going to reduce or you are not going to pass on the benefit, your competitor will pass on. Then naturally you are forced to pass on. This is point number one. And answer to your question number two about the cash-based economy. There is a Anandji, the intelligence. For example, you sold or you consumed 100 metric tons of steel, and you are selling that I had manufactured only 10,000 cars, but in 100 metric tons of the steel, you are supposed to manufacture 12,000 cars. So that matching has to that raw material consumption and output should be matched. If it is not matched, then there are severe penalties, very severe penalties. I'm not saying severe, very severe penalties. And I am very hopeful that MSME and large corporates in our country are going to pass on the full benefit of rate reduction.
You're trying to say that those that fall under the category of sin goods, if there is cash payments on those sin goods this festive season, there is a mechanism to catch that.
See, Anandji,
I don't want to name brands. I'm just saying an expensive luxury mobile phone or a luxury watch. Somebody goes to pay and pays cash and there is no GST that's paid on that. How are you going to catch that? And if that's where the consumption goes, then where is the revenue that's going to come to you? I'm just putting this out there because it's possible.
See, I'm giving you an answer. There is a very strict and vigilant watch by the GST intelligence, and all those things are going to be caught. Because that is the character of GST, because from raw material to finished product, even if one person is going to pay the GST, then the entire value chain is going to be tracked. That is the beauty of the GST system. Like from raw material, I am manufacturing a luxury good, which as per you or as per your nomenclature, sin good. So if I am manufacturing a sin good, from raw material to the final product, to the retailer, to the distributor, to the sole selling agent, to the final consumer, if anybody is going to write that I paid this GST, the entire value chain is going to be tracked. So it's very easy to say कि भैया cash दे के हम कर लेंगे, पर ऐसा करना आज के समय में with the GSTIN network is very difficult until and unless the person is ready to go to jail or is ready for severe penalties. I am hopeful that 99.999% of corporates as well as MSMEs are here in our country for doing business, not to do these gotalas. That era, that environment is gone.
Right. My final question, are you confident that the government, whatever the loss of revenue, about 2.2 to 2.5 lakh crores, will it be mitigated? Is this going to be a mega consumption fest to perhaps even offset some geopolitical setbacks?
Geopolitical setbacks, 140 crore Indians together, we will find out the way. I can tell you very firmly on this. And as I told you in the earlier part of my discussion with you, primarily we are a consumption-driven economy. If in the Prime Minister, sir, I'm taking the statement from his address that the neo middle class and the middle class are going to take the full benefit of rate reduction as well as the income tax exemption. And we not only, I am hopeful for short term, there may be some revenue deficit. Short term means Anandji 4 se 6 mahina, not beyond that. But beyond 6 months time period, we will be having, by this consumption driven measures, not only we are going to overcome the revenue deficit, we are going to generate positive revenue by these rate reduction and income tax exemption for up to 12 lakh rupees of income.
Right. Gaurav Vallabhji, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very, very much. We'll connect again in the coming days. Shubh Navratri. Thank you.
आपको भी और बचत उत्सव की भी शुभकामनाएं.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's quickly go across to Shireen Bhan, CNBC managing editor with us. Shireen, Prime Minister's message is to the Bachat Utsav, Nagrik Devo Bhava, middle class and the poor, but there's also this message to India, especially the MSMEs. Will they take this message positively? What's the conversation in the corporate corridors, if I may ask you this, on a Sunday evening?
Well, it's in the interest. Happy Sunday evening to you too, Anand. But I think it's in the interest of industry to pass on the GST rate cuts. And I think industry is working towards that. In fact, if you look at the auto sector, for instance, where the cut is significant, because the auto sector has come down to 18% from 28% for the smaller vehicles, smaller engine capacity. They've already announced their rate cuts, their price reductions, and those are quite significant. On the FMCG side, etc., as well, which the items have moved down to 5%, there is relief. But on the price itself, the difference will not be as substantial as it is in the larger value items like auto and so on and so forth. In fact, if you look at the estimates that have been put together by FICCI, EY, and so on and so forth, it's a little over 1,000 rupees on a monthly basis, for households. That's the kind of savings that could accrue on account of this. So it's in the interest of industry to pass on the benefits. And of course, the government will be monitoring, even though there is no anti-profiteering authority anymore. That anti-profiteering authority has lapsed, but the government's field formations will be monitoring. So there's also been relaxation given to companies because from an ease of doing business point of view, the government has said you don't need to repackage, you don't need to re-sticker, because that was the big problem that industry was faced with, saying that, look, we don't have enough time to be able to do this. So now they've said essentially, make the price known, put it out there in the stores, put it online, release ads and so on and so forth. You don't need to necessarily repackage or re-sticker. So it's made it easier for industry also to pass on the GST rate cuts. Of course, the festive season kicks off tomorrow and the charge period is over. So the expectation and the hope is that this will certainly provide a fillip, will provide an accelerator as far as consumption is concerned.
Well, but when we look at FMCGs, there is also products which are already at unique price points, 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 5 rupee, 10 rupee, 15 rupee, 20 rupees, For them, is the government again asking them to reduce the price, or are they saying you're okay to give more grams for the same price? So you can offer more of the product at the same price. Do they have that leeway too?
Yes, I think industry is working with that option as well, whether you actually see an enhancement as far as grammage is concerned. Because remember, you don't want to have to go to a store and say 1 rupee, 25 paise or, so on and so forth. So you don't want to make it harder for both the traders, the retailers, as well as the consumers. So FMCG companies are looking at the possibility of grammage, etc. The government is essentially saying, look, the intent is to provide relief. Now, how the industry does that is, of course, it's not as if there's a rule book, so to speak, that the government has spelled out. But the spirit is one of passing on the GST rate cuts, and that is what the expectation will be. Again, I go back to large items like cement, etc., which were also in the 28% bracket. They come down to 18%. Washing machines, TVs, fridges, all of the consumer durable items were in the 28% slab. They come down to 18%. So that's where you will really start to see the sticker relief being very visible and very apparent.
The final question is for the MSMEs. There was a message that make more in our country, make more in Bharat, and make it for the world, make for the Indian consumer. Will the MSMEs find an impetus? Will there be some uptake there? Because the government's been frustrated that the sharks don't bite, manufacturing is not picking up, etc.
But the MSMEs are not the ones that are constrained because of a lack of ambition. The MSMEs are constrained on account of a whole host of other issues, the ease of doing business, capital, so on and so forth. And of course, at this point in time, exporters have been hit with the 50% tariff. So it's not the aspiration or the ambition is not something that MSMEs are constrained by. I think what the government has been trying to say is that, look, we've done our part. It is now for industry, it's for big business really to pick up the investment cycle, to increase capacity utilization, to put in fresh capacity, to put in new investments, etc. But, Anand, all of this will only happen if, for instance, industries find themselves out of capacity. So, if you're already at 80, 85, 90%, then you will look at setting up fresh capacity. So in some sectors, in some pockets, we have started to see that happen. And if consumption picks up, if demand picks up, remember, it's also a fairly challenging global environment at this point in time. But certainly, if demand picks up and there is a need to add capacity, industry it'll be in industry's self-interest to do so.
Well, Shireen Bhan, we'll let you go for now. But viewers, she's going to be in the thick of all the action, asking the questions of Indian industry and also the netas, the government, at our conclave Reforms Reloaded on the 22nd of September at the Taj Mansingh. It's Network 18's conclave. I'm plugging that in. Should be there in the thick of all the action. Thank you, Shireen. Let's quickly go back to Aman, Payal, and also Tushar, who's there with us. Any reaction from the government on the Prime Minister's speech? Are they going to work this? Is this the message going to be on ground? Bachat karo, kharcha karo, lekin kyunki tum bacha rahe ho, jo bacha hai usko kharch do.
That's the reason you have these, meetings that have taken place by JP Nadda, over the last couple of days. NDA MPs have also been briefed. They've been told to hit ground running. They've been told to go there and allay all the fears that probably a consumer could have, all the confusion that they could have. The government has in fact listed a list of frequently asked questions that the common man may really ask.
Right.
The BJP Anand goes very, very well prepared into anything that they do. And now the NDA, I can say, is also going very, very well prepared.
Well, I think the Prime Minister has taken 3 big steps this year.
Right.
Number 1, IT cut. Putting more money in the pocket of the middle class, of the taxpayer. Number 2, GST cuts. Now making things cheaper. Number 3, as one of our panelists was mentioning, inflation is down to 2%. So not only are things cheaper, it is also easier for people to buy them because inflation is at 2%. The Prime Minister is basically telling people, as Tushar was saying, please go shop. I have done everything this year. I have put more money in your pocket. I have cut GST. I have brought inflation down to 2%. I have done the best I could. Now is the time for countrymen to go out and shop. Help us grow as an economy. Help us grow as the 3rd largest economy of the world. Let us tide over these bumps of the tariffs which Trump has brought. Let us show to the world that India is a strong Atmanirbhar, self-made country, and that is what I think the Prime Minister's big message is.
Okay, we'll close, or we've got to take a break. But before that, Tushar, your thoughts? You agree with PK Basu, who made this reference, as Aman also did, that 3 levels at where there is more money in the pockets of the middle class. A government which is blamed for taking the vote from the middle class but ignoring it for nearly a decade. Is this perhaps the biggest year? Chappar phad ke diya hai, bhai.
Absolutely. By any stretch of imagination, this is the biggest year for the middle class. And let's not forget, also the infrastructure that has been unleashed in the last decade, that has also had an indirect impact on the middle class. But this year has been more about direct impact. I'll give you a simple example. Say a family of 4 people, a couple and 2 children. If they were earning 11 lakh and 8 lakh respectively, right now, every single month, they have around 8,000 more in their pockets if they're going out to buy a car worth 8 to 10 lakhs. The EMIs have decreased. There is more disposable income in their hands. So the combined effect is around 8 to 10,000 rupees more in their pockets. Now talk to a family which is looking to buy the first car and they'll tell you this is a big amount. And Anand, these are not theoretical reforms. These are not something that we can keep debating about. These are tangible reforms. A day from now, we'll start seeing the impact in the markets. We'll start seeing the impact even in our local markets, not just shopping malls. We'll see it across India, and we'll see it even in our neighborhoods as people around us go and shop and buy new things. And this is what consumption is all about. Everyone across the entire economic spectrum taking part in the India growth story.
True. I think as we take a break, it's just a humble request to our viewers, even if you pay in cash, pay GST. Make sure that you pay this, because that's the little contribution that we as people can make towards this growth story. That this GST goes towards building of the nation, and it is a contribution. And this is a smaller slab, much lesser, 5% and 18%, much less than what we've been paying in the past for a lot of these goods. For a lot of them, there's no GST at all. On that note, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll try and play out the Prime Minister's address to the nation again when we come back. Plus, there's more. This is continuous coverage. Special Sunday evening. Nagrik Bachao, Nagrik Devo Bhava, GST Bachat Utsav, and of course, later on, we're also going to build up to that Super 4 India-Pakistan clash. So it's a Super Sunday here. Stay with us.
This is News 18 Network. India's India's largest news network.
Bollywood actress Jacqueline Fernandez is set to appear tomorrow, seeking the quashing of the money laundering case which was filed against her. Now, Jacqueline has challenged Delhi High Court's July 3rd order, which rejected her earlier plea. Now, ED also alleges that she initially denied facts, which she later admitted them, and wiped data from her phone to hide evidence. This is the latest input we are tracking for you. CNN News 18's Ananya Bhatnagar joins us this morning. Ananya, very good morning to you. Let's start at the very beginning. Jacqueline Fernandez has filed a fresh plea in the Supreme Court. What is she seeking this time?
Well, she's seeking the similar relief that she was seeking before the Delhi High Court. In fact, this is in fact a challenge to that July 3 order of the Delhi High Court, wherein the High Court had refused to quash the FIR, the money laundering case against the Bollywood actor. In fact, going on to as far as to say that the questions that Jacqueline Fernandez is raising with regards to her trial being delayed, or in fact that she admittedly did not have the knowledge of Sukesh's whereabouts and how he had criminality attached to him, or something that is a test of the trial, can only be seen at the trial court stage, and it is too premature.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Payal, Pallavi. Oh, we've got Rajagopalanji, Rashid Kidwai, and Rajat Sethi also with us. Namaskaram, namaste, good evening. Good that it's a working Sunday for a lot of us. But I think this is going to be an indication of the times to come, that we are also going to get into a 24/7 kind of mode, because that's the only way we're going to start catching up with certain other nations who've got a march ahead of us. But Pallavi, what's the conversation? What could be the focus of the Prime Minister's thrust, politically, but out there in business? What is the expectation from the Finance Ministry, from the government? How are the manufacturers, the retailers, the producers going to pass on this GST benefit to the consumer?
See, Anand, that could be the real challenge. And the challenge is to ensure that the benefit of GST's rate rationalization does not go only to the manufacturers, but it goes on to the real people, which is the consumers. But before I go on to that very quickly, I mean, I think he's, as the Bengali, I'll say it's a very shubh day for him to hold this address to the nation, because it's Mahalaya, and for us Bengalis, it's the beginning of the festive spirit. And in Kolkata, where I am, the festive spirit has already begun. And tomorrow onwards, I think how the sales pitch up is going to be extremely significant. But Anand, a Bengali doesn't need to wait for a festive spirit. We, in any case, tend to celebrate Durga Puja. But here, when I speak to the trading community, when I speak to the consumers, the ones I spoke to, they are, especially the consumers, they are going to be waiting to see whether the benefit of the GST 2.0 is only going to go to the manufacturers. And since the government is very keen on this is something which the Finance Ministry, this is something which the Prime Minister has stressed on. The fact is that consumers are the king. They should be the king. And that's the reason why for 6 months long, there is going to be the CBIC, which is the Central Bureau of Indian...
मेरे प्रिय देशवासियों, नमस्कार। कल से शक्ति की उपासना का पर्व नवरात्रि का आरंभ हो रहा है। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। नवरात्रि के पहले दिन से देश आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के लिए एक और महत्वपूर्ण और बड़ा कदम उठा रहा है। कल यानी नवरात्रि के प्रथम दिवस 22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे। एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है। इस जीएसटी बचत उत्सव में आपकी बचत बढ़ेगी और आप अपनी पसंद की चीजों को और ज्यादा आसानी से खरीद पाएंगे। हमारे देश के गरीब, मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी, सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा। यानी त्योहारों के इस मौसम में सबका मुंह मीठा होगा। देश के हर परिवार की खुशियां बढ़ेगी। मैं देश के कोटि कोटि परिवारजनों को नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स की और इस बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे। साथियों, जब साल 2017 में भारत ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म की तरफ कदम बढ़ाया था, तो एक पुराना इतिहास बदलने की और एक नया इतिहास रचने की शुरुआत हुई थी। दशकों तक हमारे देश की जनता, आप सभी लोग, देश के व्यापारी अलग अलग टैक्स के जाल में उलझे हुए थे। ऑक्ट्रॉय, एंट्री टैक्स, सेल टैक्स, एक्साइज, वेट, सर्विस टैक्स, न जाने भांति भांति के दर्जनों टैक्स हमारे देश में थे। एक शहर से दूसरे शहर माल भेजना हो तो न जाने कितने चेकपोस्ट पार करने होते थे, कितने ही फॉर्म भरने पड़ते थे, कितनी सारी रुकावटें थी। हर जगह टैक्स के अलग अलग नियम थे। मुझे याद है जब 2014 में देश ने मुझे प्रधानमंत्री पद का दायित्व सौंपा था, तब उसी शुरुआत के दौर में एक विदेशी अखबार में एक दिलचस्प उदाहरण छपा था। उसमें एक कंपनी की मुश्किलों का जिक्र था। उस कंपनी ने कहा था कि अगर उसे बेंगलुरु से 570 किलोमीटर दूर हैदराबाद अपना सामान भेजना हो तो वो इतना कठिन था कि उन्होंने सोचा और उन्होंने कहा कि वो पसंद करती थी कंपनी कि पहले अपना सामान बेंगलुरु से यूरोप भेजे और फिर वही सामान यूरोप से हैदराबाद भेजे। साथियों, टैक्स और टोल के जंजाल की वजह से ये तब के हालात थे और मैं आपको सिर्फ एक पुराना उदाहरण याद दिला रहा हूं। तब ऐसी लाखों कंपनियों को, लाखों करोड़ों देशवासियों को अलग अलग तरह के टैक्स के जाल की वजह से हर रोज परेशानी होती थी। सामान को एक शहर से दूसरे शहर पहुंचने के बीच जो खर्च बढ़ता था वो भी गरीब को उठाना पड़ता था। आप जैसे ग्राहकों से वसूला जाता था। साथियों, देश को इस स्थिति से निकालना बहुत जरूरी था। इसलिए जब आपने हमें 2014 में अवसर दिया तो हमने जनहित में, देश हित में जीएसटी को अपनी प्राथमिकता बनाया। हमने हर स्टेक होल्डर से चर्चा की, हमने हर राज्यों की हर शंका का निवारण किया, हर सवाल का समाधान खोजा। सभी राज्यों को, सबको साथ लेकर आजाद भारत का इतना बड़ा टैक्स रिफॉर्म संभव हो पाया। ये केंद्र और राज्यों के प्रयासों का नतीजा था कि देश दर्जनों टैक्सों के जाल से मुक्त हुआ और पूरे देश के लिए एक जैसी व्यवस्था बनी। वन नेशन वन टैक्स का सपना साकार हुआ। साथियों, रिफॉर्म एक अनवरत चलने वाली प्रक्रिया होती है। जब समय बदलता है, देश की जरूरत बदलती है, तो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन रिफॉर्म भी उतने ही आवश्यक होते हैं। इसलिए देश की वर्तमान जरूरतों और भविष्य के सपनों को देखते हुए जीएसटी के ये नए रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो रहे हैं। नए स्वरूप में मुख्य रूप से अब सिर्फ 5% और 18% के ही टैक्स स्लैब रहेंगे। इसका मतलब है रोजमर्रा के इस्तेमाल की ज्यादातर चीजें और सस्ती हो जाएगी। खाने पीने का सामान, दवाइयां, साबुन, ब्रश, पेस्ट, स्वास्थ्य और जीवन बीमा, ऐसे अनेकों सामान, अनेकों सेवाएं या तो टैक्स फ्री होगी या फिर केवल 5% टैक्स देना होगा। जिन सामानों पर पहले 12% टैक्स लगा करता था, उसमें से 99% यानी करीब करीब 100 के निकट 99% चीजें अब 5% टैक्स के दायरे में आ गई है। साथियों, पिछले 11 साल में देश में 25 करोड़ लोगों ने गरीबी को हराया है, गरीबी को परास्त किया है और गरीबी से बाहर निकल करके 25 करोड़ का एक बहुत बड़ा समूह नियो मिडिल क्लास के रूप में आज देश के अंदर बहुत बड़ी भूमिका अदा कर रहा है। इस नियो मिडिल क्लास की अपनी एस्पिरेशंस हैं, अपने सपने हैं। इस साल सरकार ने 12 लाख रुपए तक की इनकम को टैक्स फ्री करके एक उपहार दिया और स्वाभाविक है जब 12 लाख रुपयों का इनकम टैक्स में राहत हो जाए तो मध्यम वर्ग के जीवन में तो कितना बड़ा बदलाव आता है, कितनी सरलता सुविधा हो जाती है। और अब गरीबों की भी बारी है, नियो मिडिल क्लास की बारी है। अब गरीब को, नियो मिडिल क्लास को एक तरह से डबल बोनांजा मिल रहा है। जीएसटी कम होने से अब देश के नागरिकों के लिए अपने सपने पूरे करना और आसान होगा। घर बनाना, टीवी, फ्रिज खरीदने की बात हो, स्कूटर, बाइक, कार खरीदना हो, ये सब पर अब कम खर्च करना होगा। आपके लिए घूमना फिरना भी सस्ता हो जाएगा, क्योंकि ज्यादातर होटल्स के कमरों पर भी जीएसटी कम कर दिया गया है। वैसे साथियों, मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि दुकानदार भाई बहन भी जीएसटी रिफॉर्म को लेकर बहुत उत्साह में है। वो बहुत जीएसटी में हुई कटौती को ग्राहकों तक पहुंचाने में जुटे हुए हैं। बहुत सारी जगहों पर पहले और अब के बोर्ड लगाए जा रहे हैं। साथियों, हम नागरिक देवो भवः, नागरिक देवो भवः के जिस मंत्र के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म में इसकी साफ झलक दिखाई देती है। अगर हम इनकम टैक्स में छूट और जीएसटी में छूट को जोड़ दें, तो एक साल में जो निर्णय हुए हैं, उससे देश के लोगों को 2.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा की बचत होगी। और तभी तो मैं कह रहा हूं, ये बचत उत्सव है। साथियों, विकसित भारत के लक्ष्य तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें आत्मनिर्भरता के रास्ते पर चलना ही होगा। और भारत को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व हमारे एमएसएमईज, यानी हमारे लघु, मध्यम और कुटीर उद्योगों पर भी है, जो देश के लोगों की जरूरत कम है, जो हम देश में ही बना सकते हैं, वो हमें देश में ही बनाना चाहिए। साथियों, जीएसटी की दरें कम होने से नियम और प्रक्रियाएं और आसान बनने से हमारे एमएसएमईज, हमारे लघु उद्योगों को, कुटीर उद्योगों को बहुत फायदा होगा। उनकी बिक्री बढ़ेगी और टैक्स भी कम देना पड़ेगा, यानी उनको भी डबल फायदा होगा। इसलिए आज मेरी एमएसएमई से लघु उद्योग हो, सूक्ष्म उद्योग हो, कुटीर उद्योग हो, आप सबसे बहुत अपेक्षाएं हैं। आपको भी पता है, जब भारत समृद्धि के शिखर पर था, तब भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था का मुख्य आधार हमारे एमएसएमईज थे, हमारे लघु और कुटीर उद्योग थे। भारत की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, भारत में बने सामानों की क्वालिटी बेहतर होती थी। हमें उस गौरव को वापस पाना है। हमारे लघु उद्योग जो बनाए, वो दुनिया में हर कसौटी पर बेस्ट हो, उत्तम से उत्तम हो। हम जो मैन्युफैक्चर करें, वो दुनिया में आन बान शान के साथ बेस्ट के सारे पैरामीटर को पार करने वाला हो। हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स की क्वालिटी दुनिया में भारत की पहचान बढ़ाए, भारत का गौरव बढ़ाए। हमें इस लक्ष्य को लेकर काम करना है। साथियों, देश की स्वतंत्रता को जैसे स्वदेशी के मंत्र से ताकत मिली, वैसे ही देश की समृद्धि को भी स्वदेशी के मंत्र से ही शक्ति मिलेगी। आज जाने अनजाने हमारी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में बहुत सी विदेशी चीजें जुड़ गई है, हमें पता तक नहीं है। हमारे जेब में कंघी विदेशी है कि देसी, हमें पता ही नहीं है। हमें इनसे भी मुक्ति पानी होगी। हम वो सामान खरीदें जो मेड इन इंडिया हो, जिसमें हमारे देश के नौजवानों की मेहनत लगी हो, हमारे देश के बेटे बेटियों का पसीना हो। हमें हर घर को स्वदेशी का प्रतीक बनाना है, हर दुकान को स्वदेशी से सजाना है। गर्व से कहो ये स्वदेशी है, गर्व से कहो मैं स्वदेशी खरीदता हूं, मैं स्वदेशी सामान की बिक्री भी करता हूं। ये हर भारतीय का मिजाज बनना चाहिए। जब ये होगा तो भारत तेजी से विकसित होगा। मेरा आज सभी राज्य सरकारों से भी आग्रह है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के इस अभियान के साथ, स्वदेशी के इस अभियान के साथ अपने राज्यों में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को गति दे, पूरी ऊर्जा से, पूरे उत्साह से जुड़े, निवेश के लिए माहौल बढ़ाएं। जब केंद्र और राज्य मिलकर आगे बढ़ेंगे तो आत्मनिर्भर भारत का सपना पूरा होगा। भारत का हर राज्य विकसित होगा, भारत विकसित होगा। इसी भावना के साथ मैं फिर एक बार इस बचत उत्सव की अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देते हुए अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूं। एक बार फिर आप सबको नवरात्रि की, जीएसटी बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
प्रधानमंत्री ने 2-3 चीजों पे जोर दिया है। एक, उन्होंने कहा बचत उत्सव, दूसरा उन्होंने कहा नागरिक देवो भव, तीसरा उन्होंने कहा मिडिल क्लास और पुअर के लिए ये फेस्टिवल है। पहली बार शायद मिडिल क्लास को उन्होंने संबोधित किया, he's addressed the middle class, but he's also focused on the MSMEs. There is a message to the manufacturers to make more in India, as much as there is a message to the consumer to buy more of what is made in Bharat.
See, Anandji, it's not the first time. You can see it's a process. In the union budget, the income up to 12 lakh is exempted from the income tax. Then comes the GST 2.0 or GST reform, which is a constant and continuous process. So you can see together itself, Prime Minister had also mentioned this number, that if we combine the income tax exemption up to 12 lakh rupees of income and drastic rate reduction of almost all essential products, and he gave a number of 99% of 12% items were either in 5% or 0%. So this together is going to have a saving of 2.5 lakh crore for the consumers. This is the point number one. And as per the State Bank of India's research, the 12 lakh income exemption plus GST reform is going to have an additional demand in the economy to the extent of 5.31 lakh crore rupees. So I can tell you that together with these 5.31 lakh crore rupees of additional demand, which is predicted by State Bank of India's research, and with local for local mantra, which Prime Minister gave us number of times, and now all of us are very serious, including a common citizen of our country is very serious that which product he is buying, where he is manufacturing this product. I am seeing, I went to yesterday to some shopkeepers, they are saying here, they are displaying on their board that we sell only those products which are manufactured in India. So he is giving push to Make in India scheme. He is giving push to MSME, and he is going to giving a push to the economy, because ours is a consumption-based economy. So if our consumption is going to move ahead, the entire economy is going to rotate. That is the mantra which Prime Minister had shared just a couple of minutes back.
But is this going to open up the purses of the India income, even as the middle class is urged to open up their purses to consume more? Is India Inc. going to now start biting? Are they going to come out and aggressively push this manufacturing in Bharat? Rather than just doing, assembly in Bharat and nut bolt tightening, there is a lot of core building, core manufacturing that is required, and the government seems to be a little frustrated that India Incorporated is not coming to the fore. So what's your thought there?
You are correct. You are correct. And this question which you had asked is very important and relevant in the current context. See, when we are talking about 140 crore consumption, 140 crore people's consumption in our economy, you can't just have your assembly plants. You require from technology to the product. It should not be that somebody is taking 70% of share, operating from some foreign location, and just we are assembling. That's not going to happen. From technology to product. So that is what we are trying to achieve. And with these numbers, nobody can ignore to have a complete technology here. No company in the world can afford to leave 20% of world's population. That is the biggest strength of our country right now. So nobody can leave 20% of global population. If we are saying that there should be a technology transfer, he is compelled to transfer the technology. So from technology to product, the entire value chain is going to be created. And this 5.5 lakh crore rupees, I can say it is more a pessimistic idea. The way the automobile sector, Anandji, I am giving one example. The way automobile sector is facing that in next 9 days during Navratra, they almost every automobile company, whether it's a car manufacturing or two-wheeler manufacturing, not only they are passing the GST benefits, they are giving additional concessions. So what India is trying to achieve now, it's a 100% consumption. Now, earlier we used to say ours is 80% consumption driven, 80% of GDP comes from the consumption, 20% comes from the export. Now we are moving towards a holistic economy, Atmanirbhar economy, and everybody is feeling pride that if I am, for example, buying this pen, I should be proud that I am holding a pen which is manufactured in India.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
PM is speaking.
नमस्कार। कल से शक्ति की उपासना का पर्व नवरात्रि का आरंभ हो रहा है। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। नवरात्रि के पहले दिन से देश आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के लिए एक और महत्वपूर्ण और बड़ा कदम उठा रहा है। कल यानी नवरात्रि के प्रथम दिवस 22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे। एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है। इस जीएसटी बचत उत्सव में आपकी बचत बढ़ेगी और आप अपनी पसंद की चीजों को और ज्यादा आसानी से खरीद पाएंगे। हमारे देश के गरीब, मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी, सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा। यानी त्योहारों के इस मौसम में सबका मुंह मीठा होगा। देश के हर परिवार की खुशियां बढ़ेगी। मैं देश के कोटि कोटि परिवारजनों को नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स की और इस बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे। साथियों, जब साल 2017 में भारत ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म की तरफ कदम बढ़ाया था, तो एक पुराना इतिहास बदलने की और एक नया इतिहास रचने की शुरुआत हुई थी। दशकों तक हमारे देश की जनता, आप सभी लोग, देश के व्यापारी अलग अलग टैक्स के जाल में उलझे हुए थे। ऑक्ट्रॉय, एंट्री टैक्स, सेल टैक्स, एक्साइज, वेट, सर्विस टैक्स, न जाने भांति भांति के दर्जनों टैक्स हमारे देश में थे। एक शहर से दूसरे शहर माल भेजना हो तो न जाने कितने चेक पोस्ट पार करने होते थे, कितने ही फॉर्म भरने पड़ते थे, कितनी सारी रुकावटें थी। हर जगह टैक्स के अलग अलग नियम थे। मुझे याद है जब 2014 में देश ने मुझे प्रधानमंत्री पद का दायित्व सौंपा था, तब उसी शुरुआत के दौर में एक विदेशी अखबार में एक दिलचस्प उदाहरण छपा था। उसमें एक कंपनी की मुश्किलों का जिक्र था। उस कंपनी ने कहा था कि अगर उसे बेंगलुरु से 570 किलोमीटर दूर हैदराबाद अपना सामान भेजना हो तो वो इतना कठिन था कि उन्होंने सोचा और उन्होंने कहा कि वो पसंद करती थी कंपनी कि पहले अपना सामान
Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching our rolling coverage preview to the second India-Pakistan match at the Asia Cup 2025. And so much has happened already since that last meeting. I'm Shivani Gupta. Remember, tensions are running high in Dubai as these two arch rivals meet again, this time for a Super 4 showdown. The Surya Kumar Yadav-led Indian team has sailed into the clash unbeaten. They have brushed aside Oman, UAE and also have thrashed Pakistan previously by 7 wickets.
The drama, though, isn't just about on the pitch. Match referee Andy Pycroft, remember, at the center of the controversial handshake drama, he's returning to officiate today's game despite Pakistan's demand for his removal and tantrums to throw him out of the tournament earlier. The match will be played at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium in about 1.5 hours from now. The very ground where Pakistan skipper Agha Salman skipped the post-match presentation last time around. Pakistan has once again cancelled their pre-match press conference before this one as well. Remember, all of these are flouting of tournament norms. But here we are. We'll talk about not just the cricket today, but of course everything else that has transpired. First up, take a look at this clash and how it sets up.
The stage is set in Dubai for another India-Pakistan showdown in the Asia Cup Super 4, but the build-up has been anything but quiet. From the controversial handshake saga in their group stage clash to the drama over Andy Pycroft staying on as match referee, despite Pakistan's protest, the noise has been louder than cricket itself. But while Pakistan enter under mounting pressure, both from a string of recent results against India and board's public tantrums, Indian skipper Suryakumar Yadav kept things grounded in his pre-match presser. On the team's mindset ahead of the clash, Surya made it clear that the focus remains firmly on themselves.
Sometimes it is difficult because you meet a lot of friends, you go out for dinner, and you have a lot of players also around who like to see all these things. So it's very difficult, but then it's on you what you want to listen to, what you want to have in your mind, and go on and have a practice session or go on and have a play a game. But I have been very clear with all the boys. I think it's very important if you want to do well this tournament and going forward. We will have to shut a lot of noise from outside and take what is good for you.
Heading into the Super 4s with 3 wins and 3 matches, Suryakumar Yadav emphasized the team has shut out all the outside chatter from the crowd frenzy to the media glare.
क्रिकेटिंग पर्सपेक्टिव से इंडिया पाकिस्तान राइवलरी क्या सेम लेवल की इंटेंसिटी है या सेम लेवल की क्वालिटी है दोनों टीम्स के बीच में, इसको आप कैसे देखते हो? और एज अ कैप्टन ऑफ द टीम क्या आपको लगता है कि पाकिस्तान को हराने में अभी भी वही अलग मजा आता है जैसे पहले आता था 2003-2003 उस टाइप की बात है?
अभी देखो उस टाइम तो पता नहीं, मैं कभी खेला नहीं तो मैं बता नहीं सकता, बट राइवलरी की बात करें तो पता नहीं आप लोग क्या राइवलरी की बात कर रहे हो। मुझे तो बस ग्राउंड पे जाने के बाद ऐसे ही लगता है कि स्टेडियम भरा होता है, और जब स्टेडियम भरा होता है तो मैं अपने टीम को और सबको ये बोलता हूँ कि चलो भाई लोग, एंटरटेनमेंट का टाइम आ गया, इतने लोग आए हैं मैच देखने के लिए तो आपको एंटरटेन करना पड़ेगा सबको। लेट्स प्ले सम गुड ब्रांड ऑफ क्रिकेट एंड और तो मेरे हिसाब से हम लोग इतना ज्यादा कुछ सोचते नहीं है। 3 गेम खेला है हमने, अभी तीनों गेम जीतने में उतना ही मजा आया जितना गेम इसके पहले वाला गेम जीतने में मजा आया था। तो आई फील एवरी गेम इज अ न्यू चैलेंज, वी टेक इट इन अ स्ट्राइड और अच्छा लगता है, जीतते हैं और कुछ उसमें से सीखते हैं और नेक्स्ट गेम में ट्राई करते करने की।
And on the age-old question of rivalry, Surya brushed it aside, choosing instead to highlight the spectacle.
पूरा स्टेडियम भरा होता है, उससे ज्यादा आपको क्या है, बेस्ट क्राउड आता है सपोर्ट करने के लिए, and it's best put your best foot forward for the country and enjoy the game.
For India, from a team changes perspective, it is expected Jasprit Bumrah and Varun Chakravarti to return, and as India eye a semi-final spot and Pakistan try to silence the storm surrounding them, it is clear both sides have more than just cricket at stake. But for Surya and his men, the focus is simple: keep calm, block the noise, and let the cricket do the talking.
Well, a lot has happened as far as the run-up to this match is concerned, and all of that will weigh a little bit or maybe more on the players' minds. Yes, Suryakumar Yadav is talking about how they're going to tune it out, but is it really possible? We'll take that and more with our guests joining us, former India cricketers Piyush Chawla and Atul Vasan with me. But let me also first go across to Vimal, sports journalist who's also in Dubai, has been tracking the drama of the Asia Cup 2025. Vimal, what do you make of the build-up to this match? What's the atmosphere like as far as both of the camps are concerned?
I think if you look at the build-up over the last, I never thought that there will be a 7-day build-up. And thanks to Suryakumar Yadav, the way Indian team won the game handsomely. And after that, the sky shake. It completely, shell-shocked the Pakistani team. And you can see the after effect. It has put the PCB in trouble. It has put enormous pressure on the Pakistani team. But as far as the mood is concerned, if you look at mood of the fans, I have been here for the last 3 hours and I can see the confident Indian fans. So almost, if you see that last time there was a 10 or 15% seats were empty, but today you can see the 100% attendance and 90% of them Indians. One thing I must tell you, I got the news from some of the people who were handling the ticket. They were saying this is the first time many Pakistani fans are refusing to buy the ticket because they don't have the confidence. Because they say, "Pehli baar match mein yaar badi nirasha hui, and in T20 mein we cannot beat India." They have just surrendered. Even the fans, the boycott thing. So the mood in Dubai by Pakistani fans is that they are boycotting the match because they don't have the. And the reason is. So I keep saying that the Pakistan has not come here, it seems, to play cricket match, but to play the boycott game.
No, but we've seen that the Pakistani side or the administration has also been very desperately trying to kind of, quote unquote, give it back to India after that no handshake decision by the Indian team, certain gestures, comments during practice sessions. The fact that they haven't addressed a press conference in the run-up to this match shows that actually they are the ones on the back foot. They don't quite know how to explain what's going on.
And yes, and you look at this is such a bizarre stand. Even forget Indians or the rest of the world. Even the former Pakistani players are saying, why you guys are doing? I just heard the statement of Imran Akmal and Basit Ali. They were saying this was a golden opportunity. If Pakistani players wanted to make a point, they should have come to the PC. They should have spoken about Surya's gesture, what they felt about it. The platform was there. But they're saying who is handling Pakistan cricket? PCB, nobody knows, because it puts entire Pakistani cricket establishment in such a poor light. Not only you are losing the match, but off the field they are losing all the battles. It's 7 days since that game was Surya's gesture. Not a single player of repute has come on record from apart who is not a Pakistani saying that what India did was wrong, or any single cricket board which has come and supported Pakistani. So they have been completely isolated in Inter. Pakistan
but their own antics,
that they don't have someone like China.
No, their own antics and tantrums are also isolating them. If you do what they tried to do, for example, after their first India match in the Asia Cup, obviously there will not be many supporters. But, Vimal, I'll come back to you. I would love to hear what fans in Dubai have to say. You're saying it's going to be a 90-10 percentage of Indian versus Pakistani fans. We look forward to that. Atul Vasan is also joining us. My colleague Ananya Bhatnagar is also with us. He'll get some of the mood from the national capital. Before that, Piyush, I want to come to you. Suryakumar Yadav made it sound very easy that you just tune it out. Whatever has happened in the run-up to this match, a lot of the onus of what has happened falls on India because they are the ones who took that unprecedented stance and they're not going to shake hands of the opposing team in the last match. So how do you do that? How do you tune everything out?
Well, we heard from Surya earlier also. He said it's like you're not there to shake hands. You're just there to play cricket and you just go back to your room, you put your phone aside and just focus on the game. And if you're playing somebody like against Pakistan, the team who's struggling to, match up the standard of what they were like few years back, and you don't have to think too many things about that game. You just have to come out there. Even if India plays 70% of their cricket, they are more than enough to beat Pakistani team then.
So you think this is unprecedented of sorts. Yes, India and Pakistan, Atul, have faced each other in very acrimonious environments. There's been a lot that has happened in the past as well. It continues to happen. This time seems a little bit different. What would your advice be, if any, of how to approach a match like this?
Is it for me?
Yes, Atul, go ahead.
Yeah, so no, I was hearing to Vimal, and I feel, let me just sum it up, I think Pakistan didn't, see through the game. They didn't know where the end game is, and they've just been doing reactive things, and they're looking bad because they brought this upon themselves. I think the match, what's going to happen is a foregone conclusion, unless something bizarre happens. They need a miracle to win. because of the personal, because of the attitude, because of the mentality they have at this minute. But India is head and shoulders miles ahead of them. But I think India will have to play really, really bad, and Pakistan will have to play out of the skins if they have to win the game. Having said that, I think just to sum up what has transpired in the last 3 days, they could have actually let this gone by not making an issue out of it. If the Indian team didn't shake hands with them, fine. They could have come back and said, okay, we'll also now behave the same way, and we will focus on what we have to do on the field. And I think rather than react and go after Andy Pycroft, which was like shooting, going after the messenger, not the message, And I think, and then they made it worse by sulking, by board not thinking through. And who is running cricket in Pakistan? Where are the brains? They should realize that if they sulk and don't play.
No, Atul, forget about Pakistan. Whatever they did, they did. Atul, forget about Pakistan. Whatever they did, they did. My question is, how should the Indian team approach a match like this? Because the build-up has been fierce.
Yeah, okay. So Indian team is doing, they are just doing the process. And I think they know that they are better. But now one thing where I can criticize the Suryakumar Yadav or Indian team's part was going to the press conference and you're just mentioning the Belgaum because we all know that's why you didn't shake hands with them. So just to reiterate that point, and politicizing that platform is actually a violation of code of conduct. And Pakistan, if they could have just focused on that, I think they would have been better off and not sulking and coming late. And they didn't realize the financial penalties. So I think the monkey is on the back of the Pakistani board, players and everybody, not the Indians, and I think that's why Pakistani fans are also staying away, because how long can you keep on, taking this insult, when the team is not doing well, they are behaving like juveniles, so this is the whole scenario of the game.
Okay. Before we talk more about what has transpired, frankly, Pakistan's behavior has been for everybody to see. India has kind of said what it wanted to say, but also in a very dignified manner, hasn't taken it further from there. Pakistan has been, smarting since that no handshake thing. They could have also dealt with it like adults and said, okay, you want to do this, fair enough. We are not interested in shaking your hands either. But they've gone, they've tried to make it worse for them. Maybe it's for domestic audience or whatever it is. But we have to focus on ground now. The team shouldn't suffer because of everything that has happened. Let me go across to my colleague Ananya as well. Ananya, this time around, this entire tournament started with boycott calls. Certainly the fervor before the last match was a little bit damp, or let's say less than what we know. This time around, given what has transpired in the last 7 days, do you sense more people are keen to watch this second India-Pakistan clash?
Well, at least if we compare it with the last match, definitely a few more people are here to watch the match because last time, all the screens had gone empty, and this time, at least in Delhi, I've spoken to a lot of people, who run these screenings, and many of them have cancelled those screenings. Fortunately, we found OTV, which is now screening the match. I have some fans also here. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, Pushpak.
But how do you see today's match? Is it an easy cakewalk or would it be a difficult one?
I think it's a very easy cakewalk because there's no competition between the teams and the countries as well. So I don't think there would be a problem for India.
Do you think it's one of the most boring tournaments that have transpired?
I think the earlier match was also very boring. We didn't even watch it. I literally just watched the highlights and we didn't come here for the match. So people are here, but not for the match. So you can sense how people are not really keen to watch the India-Pakistan match this time because they feel that it's a very easy game. India will win it very clearly, and also we've seen a lot of controversy happening around how India-Pakistan match was boycotted, and now when Pakistan went to play UAE, it had a lot of drama to do. So all of that being considered by a lot of people also, and people are skipping watching the match and just enjoying the evening for themselves.
All right. Enjoy the evening, but also this time around it has become very much about supporting the Indian team, given what has transpired. I can see my colleague Smriti is also joining us. Smriti, you're joining us from the Wagah border, the Wagah-Attari border. Tell us more of what's happening there.
Well, we are here in Amritsar, and as you know, this is one of those places where people are most excited about India and Pakistan match. We've already seen how on September 14th, what was the reaction of the people as India won against Pakistan by 17. क्या उम्मीदें हैं, क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस है इंडिया पाकिस्तान मैच को लेके? वैसे जोश जुनून जज्बा हमेशा रहता है, बताइए क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस है मैच को लेके आप?
इंडिया अभी तक अनबीटन चला है, बिल्कुल, इसलिए आज का मैच भी
टसल का होना चाहिए, बहुत अच्छा होना चाहिए। और हमारे जो कैप्टन है सूर्य कुमार यादव, उनको 100 होना चाहिए, आज शतक होना चाहिए। और तिलक वर्मा है हमारे, और अभिषेक शर्मा है।
ये कहा जा रहा है कि जैसे अभी पाकिस्तान की टीम है प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंसेस अवॉइड की है हमारी तरफ से, भी बहुत सारी कॉन्ट्रोवर्सी सोशल मीडिया पे बहुत ज्यादा लोग बात कर रहे हैं, उस चीज का वो क्या लगता है कि देखिए इंडियन टीम के ऊपर कोई प्रेशर है, पाकिस्तान टीम के ऊपर प्रेशर है?
पहले ही इंडिया को पाकिस्तान के साथ मैच नहीं करना चाहिए था। और हमारे नेताओं ने भी कहा था मैच नहीं करना चाहिए था, मोदी बोलते, फिर भी बीसीसीआई ने अनुमति दे दी। अच्छा है मैच।
आज के मैच को लेकर आपकी क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस है, क्योंकि लास्ट टाइम इंडिया का जो मैच था वो वन साइडेड हमने जीता था। इस बार आपको क्या लग रहा है, क्या हो सकता है? अगर इंडिया टॉस जीतती है तो इंडिया को बैटिंग करनी चाहिए, बॉलिंग करनी चाहिए?
इंडिया को बैटिंग ही करनी चाहिए। कितना ज्यादा से ज्यादा रन बना के ज्यादा से गेंदबाज भी अभी फॉर्म में है। जैसे कि गौतम गंभीर हमारे हेड कोच है, उन्होंने अच्छी बॉलिंग लाइन की है, सब ऑलराउंडर खेल रहे हैं। जैसे हर्षित राणा है, अच्छे प्लेयर खेल रहे हैं, इसलिए अच्छी टीम बॉलिंग कर रहे हैं। मैंने सिर्फ कॉन्फिडेंस है, फुल सपोर्ट होना चाहिए इसलिए मैंने सिर्फ।
As you can see, there is a lot of excitement in people, and no matter what, one thing is for sure, that the people in our country have a lot of faith with when it comes to our men in blue who are going to play tonight, and there's a lot of hope with the Indian team, and they are very sure, they are pretty sure they are going win.
Well, then, as far as the result of this match is concerned, there shouldn't really be any problems as far as the mindset of the Indian team is concerned. The difference between the two sides is so huge, Piyush. It will never come into play, even if this is the T20 format. Even if, let's say, the Pakistani side has had some sort of an assessment of the Indian side, but some people are pointing out to the fact that India's last match that could give Pakistan some hope. The way even Oman managed to stretch them a little bit, or at least they weren't wiped out completely. Do you believe so?
Well, I think Pakistan will be under pressure more now, because the way Oman played, they have to put better performance than Oman now.
Right.
Otherwise, people will already they have become a part of a joke, because the way they are behaving after that handshake incident. So they'll be under more pressure. So they will not take any positive out of it. Now they'll be thinking that we have to better the performance of Oman team. So I think it's not going to be easy for Pakistan. As we have discussed earlier, the kind of team they have, you don't get that feel that they'll be able to put that fight also. T20 cricket, we all know anything is possible. But this, especially this team of Pakistan, it's not looking that they can even give a fight. And as we have mentioned, Atul Bhai also mentioned that India has to play a really, really, really bad cricket to lose the game against Pakistan.
And that doesn't seem to be happening, given that the Pakistani team doesn't have enough pressure points to extract that poor performance. It all depends on the opposition that you're playing. But speaking of that Oman match, certainly there were eyes on it. There were, of course, it can be seen as preparation for what India wanted to do further as far as the Super Fours is concerned. But Oman did manage to push India harder, a little bit more than expected. Just take a brief look at how that match panned out, because chasing 189 50s from Amir Khalim and Hamid Mirza kept the game alive. We also saw how Surya Kumar Yadav actually told the Oman team how well they performed and how they should just continue on that path. So just a refresher of what transpired in India's last match before the Super 4 encounter. And then, of course, we'll get you more updates from Dubai and further as well.
India versus Oman, their first ever T20I face-off, and what a contest it turned out to be in the Asia Cup 2025. Batting first, India posted 188, but not without a few hiccups. Abhishek Sharma lost his partner Shubman Gill early, but then combined with the promoted Sanju Samson for a 66-run stand. Samson anchored the innings with a fighting half-century. While Tilak Verma provided the fireworks, Akshar Patel chipped in too. But a flurry of late wickets meant India slipped from what looked like a 200-plus total to finish at 188 for 8. Credit to Oman bowlers, especially Jiten Ramandani, who picked up 4 wickets, including 2 in 1 over, and Shah Fazal, who got the ball swinging early. Chasing a stiff 189, Oman showed immense fight. Captain Jitender Singh and veteran Amir Kaleem set the tone with a steady, positive opening stand. 44 without loss in the power play overs, they didn't allow Indian new ball attack to dominate. After Jatinder chopped one back to Kuldeep Yadav, many thought the innings would collapse, but Oman had other ideas. Kaleem and Hamid Mirza took the attack to India, both registering gritty half-centuries in a superb 93-run partnership that had the world champions on the edge. In the end, experience told. Both set batters fell in the closing stages and India's bowlers tightened the screws. Oman eventually fell short by 21 runs. But make no mistake, this was a statement from Oman against the reigning world champions. They didn't just show up, they competed toe-to-toe. For India, with top spot in the group already secured, it was a chance to test their depth of batting, but the bowling was somewhat found out. With this win, India top Group A comfortably with 3 wins in 3 matches and are set for the Super 4 stage. They begin their Super 4 campaign against Pakistan on Sunday, followed by Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. There will be no dearth of drama against their arch rivals Pakistan, but with India dominating on the field in their recent fixtures, the big question will be, can Pakistan put up a fight against the mighty India come this Sunday?
क्वालिटी पे इतना
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
PM is speaking.
नमस्कार। कल से शक्ति की उपासना का पर्व नवरात्रि का आरंभ हो रहा है। आप सभी को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। नवरात्रि के पहले दिन से देश आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान के लिए एक और महत्वपूर्ण और बड़ा कदम उठा रहा है। कल यानी नवरात्रि के प्रथम दिवस 22 सितंबर को सूर्योदय के साथ ही नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स लागू हो जाएंगे। एक तरह से कल से देश में जीएसटी बचत उत्सव शुरू होने जा रहा है। इस जीएसटी बचत उत्सव में आपकी बचत बढ़ेगी और आप अपनी पसंद की चीजों को और ज्यादा आसानी से खरीद पाएंगे। हमारे देश के गरीब, मध्यम वर्गीय लोग, न्यू मिडिल क्लास, युवा, किसान, महिलाएं, दुकानदार, व्यापारी, उद्यमी, सभी को ये बचत उत्सव का बहुत फायदा होगा। यानी त्योहारों के इस मौसम में सबका मुंह मीठा होगा। देश के हर परिवार की खुशियां बढ़ेगी। मैं देश के कोटि कोटि परिवारजनों को नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स की और इस बचत उत्सव की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं, शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। ये रिफॉर्म भारत की ग्रोथ स्टोरी को एक्सेलरेट करेंगे, कारोबार को और आसान बनाएंगे, निवेश को और आकर्षक बनाएंगे और हर राज्य को विकास की दौड़ में बराबरी का साथी बनाएंगे। साथियों, जब साल 2017 में भारत ने जीएसटी रिफॉर्म की तरफ कदम बढ़ाया था, तो एक पुराना इतिहास बदल
Welcome everyone. In just about an hour's time from now, India will be taking